I'm the great pretender, pretending I'm doing.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, without further ado, I am going to plunge right in, because I am going to read out something that somebody wrote that was very nice, and it helps me to celebrate a truly lovely experience I had on Saturday evening. And I have to tell you, I am always grateful for my blessings. Emily Rowan says, "Dear Lady C, I just wanted to say well done on your evening with Lady C here in Lancaster on Saturday. My sister and I thoroughly enjoyed it all. It was lovely to be able to meet you and thank you personally for your YouTube videos and let you know how much they have helped me get through some very traumatic times. You are even..." My head. "You are even more beautiful in real life, and you were so generous and kind. Mickey, come, lend me your paw. We need to batten down these hatches and shrink this head. It's swelling too much." Thank you very much. Thank you again for a wonderful evening, and I'm so pleased we could all have a giggle at my question and your answer about what I should and shouldn't wear when I go to the cinema next week. I have my jeans, cashmere sweater and pearls at the ready and shall leave my ball gown at home. God bless you, Emily. May I say, it was such a happy evening for me. I'd never done anything like this before. Of course, I'm doing it for Goring, because Goring requires, Goring is a very greedy love, shall we say. And I thought, why did I ever let the promoter talk me into this? It's going to be hopefully not a disaster, but I could not imagine it was going to go anywhere near as well as it did, or that people were as kind about everything as they were. And I'll tell you what really moved me above all else were two things. First of all, that several of the people who met me before or after said that they have been inspired by, or that I have helped them over rough periods, or I have inspired them as a result of these videos, which is really wonderful to hear and makes it all worthwhile, number one. Number two was what fun I had. Unbelievable. So anyway, hopefully this week at Horsham on Friday is going to be at least as good, if not better, because of course last week in Lancaster I, so to speak, lost my virginity in terms of doing not a one-woman show, because it really wasn't scripted. It was just an evening with me. And so, fingers crossed, Horsham on Friday will go as well, if not better. Cecile says, "Lady C, there is no more AFL. There is only the NFL, and it's divided into the AFC and the NFC. That's right. Thanks, you and Jackie, who says NFL is the only league now, and I will read the rest of her question afterwards. And one or two other people pointed out, well, I did make the point that I was speaking about 55 years ago. Some unbelievable 55 years ago. So, and I'll tell you, I've only ever seen one football match, American football match, in the whole of my life. And I think that was at Shea Stadium, if I remember correctly. I'm not interested in sport. Sorry. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's bad enough when I had to go and look at tennis. That was just about bearable. Football, no thank you. Cricket, no thank you. Soccer, no thank you. Not interested. I had a boyfriend who played rugby, and another friend and I, her boyfriend also played rugby. And actually, her aunt had been married to my father's first cousin. And we used to go and be faithful girlfriends and supposedly look at the game. And at the end of the game, we would be noble and allow them to kiss us as they were sweating all over. And we'd have to congratulate them if they won and console if they lost, as sweat was pouring off them. But her name was Lorraine, this friend of mine, Lorraine Drew, and we used to chat throughout the match and never looked at it. So, anyway, I didn't pretend to be an expert on football. I might have been an expert on one or two football players, but that's another matter altogether. Naughty me. And now I will continue with Jackie's question, and incidentally, it was really interesting in the comments to know that somebody alighted upon the identity of the linebacker who was my first love. Jackie says, NFL is the only league now. In fact, we watched the Super Bowl today. Kansas City Chiefs won the championship. NFL is trying to expand to the United Kingdom and other overseas territories. I've had a thought a sports figure from the UK would have been more appropriate. He has no sport connection to anything but polo. Hayes', that's a very good one. Hayes' name wasn't mentioned today on the biggest football occasion of the year. The mentioning is only in social media. Believe me, Hayes was nowhere to be found in today's extravaganza. By the way, we had great fun watching the game commercials and halftime show. Yes, Harry and Meghan did not show up. Harry and Meghan were never going to show up because it would have been humiliating for them to show up, because they would have been swamped, and they at least have started to listen to some good advice. Be a supporting act, get yourself some press attention, then Harry, you be the main player. You present the NFL Man of the Year awards and then withdraw. Because, of course, their next next foray is going to be in Canada. And they're actually playing a much cannier game now than they were playing a few months ago. I suspect they're starting to listen to Ari Emanuel's advice. You know, nothing is worse for a public figure than overexposure. But they have achieved the objective of having got themselves in the news, worked themselves into the frame, and fortunately didn't show up to be swamped by Taylor Swift. I mean, the Super Bowl, as everybody in America knows, is a huge deal. And Taylor Swift and her boyfriend are playing their hand very well. Ironically enough, she owns a house beside a friend of mine. Is that not interesting? I just thought I'd throw that in for good measure. Daisy says, why is William Morris Endeavour finding paid gigs for the idiot prince? I thought only the deranged duchess, was represented by them, not him. She is signed up. But this is the way it works. Meghan is of little and no interest on her own to anyone. That much has been obvious and has become, well, obvious to many of us, but has become apparent to WME and Ari Emanuel. She's a hard sell. She's very good at getting press attention and media attention, but that doesn't convert into bucks. Harry, on the other hand, it is hoped by his presence and his prestige as a member of the royal family will convert into bucks. So calling in a few favors to get Harry a gig or two is actually very clever because it elevates Meghan in the public perception. It also means that Harry and his royal connection is hopefully going to spill over onto and spread some of the golden dust onto Meghan and thereby make hawking her wares that much more profitable, because agents function on a commission basis. If they do not find the gig for you, they don't make any money. So it's not a matter of Harry being on their list so much as it helps them to sell Meghan, they hope. Is it going to work? Don't hold your breath unless you're suicidal. Corinne Levine says, "Oh dear, poor Megsy baby. She would have loved to make the Super Bowl all about her, but unfortunately, a richer, more powerful, and very popular narcissist got there before her. She would not have had a look-in, as all the drama was about Taylor Swift's attendance. Will she, won't she make it on time to support her boyfriend? Nail-biting stuff. No wonder Harry and his wife decided not to attend, or maybe were asked not to come. It would have been another humiliation for them. Never mind. It's only a few days to go before we all get treated to another Harry and his wife's show in Canada. Should we read anything, dear Lady C, into the fact that the Invictus Games might come back to the UK in 2027? It's my humble opinion that Harry will most probably not be their patron by then. I doubt there will be much of his reputation left by the time the truth comes out about all their shenanigans, to put it politely. Well, I have been getting some very interesting information from a friend of mine who is doing a little bit more investigation and dotting an I and crossing a T for me in relation to the veterans and Harry and Meghan, actually, and what is going on behind the scenes. So I don't want to say too much because it would be premature at this point to actually say what I have been told until certain things are absolutely nailed down. But Invictus coming to the UK in 2027, well, the Invictus is a good cause. The fact that there are issues with its patron, those issues do not negate the desirability of the cause. And if Invictus comes to England in 2027, you're quite right. By then, Harry may have stepped down as their patron. How much of people's shenanigans, to be polite, can the public tolerate before the powers that be understand that certain people shouldn't have certain patronages? Now, because I'm actually having this friend of mine who's actually brought this information to me and is extremely well connected, I don't want to say more than let's see what's happening with Canada, because Canada's only a year away, and there are already rumblings that there is dissatisfaction in the Canadian camp. And as the year unfurls and more questions are raised as to whether Harry and Meghan's behaviour has always been as desirable as their position has demanded it ought to be. Yeah. I mean, 3 years is a very long time in terms of what can happen. Now, having said all of that, for Harry to be stripped of his patronage or for him to voluntarily relinquish it would be quite a to-do. If he was stripped of it, it would be another nail in his coffin and extremely humiliating. He's found being stripped of his other patronages extremely distressing. So if he was stripped of this one, I should think the distress would be acute, to put it mildly. And if he voluntarily surrenders it, he would be doing it because he understood that he had no other option, which would be also humiliating. You know, it's a case of, did he jump or was he pushed? Well, that would arise even if he voluntarily, in quotes, gave it up. So I wouldn't be surprised if, well, let me put it this way. I don't see how the Harry and Meghan double act can continue the way it has been going recently being the last few years. I really don't see how it can continue at the rate it has been going without something giving in a major way. Having said all of that, royal patronages are only stripped as a last recourse. And Harry has so far been allowed to keep his, but with Invictus, because of course Invictus is publicly linked with Harry. Harry presents himself as the founder of the Invictus Games. In fact, he's not the founder of Invictus Games. He is one of the founders who came up with the idea of repatriating the Warrior Games in America over here in England. So, and that also is proving to be a problem, incidentally, behind the scenes. But we'll get there eventually. Not now. A.M. Bren says, Dearest Lady C, warmest greetings from France. Page 6, Cindy Adams, published the following yesterday about the dastardly duo. Quoting now. Those claiming to know say whispers about Meghan and her non-prince of a guy are getting louder. Like how now They're not insanely euphoric, yippee happy with their lives or lies or whatever. He dislikes California. There's the London drama. He now resembles a jerk in two countries. Trust Cindy. I love Cindy. She's a friend of mine, incidentally. Not that we spoke about this, may I say. But anyway, don't let me interrupt what I'm reading out. There's a London drama. He now resembles a jerk in two countries. Plus, they've fallen on their assets professionally. And that temp duchess is going nowhere. End of quotes. Wow. And no sign of them at the Super Bowl. These kiss cam moments are over. Lots of love to the fur ladies. They send hello, and I don't think they're snoring. I wonder why. Is that a good sign or not? Well, Cindy Adams, I have to tell you, is the doyenne of American gossip columnists. She is extremely well connected. She is a wonderful person. She is a great lady, Cindy. She was a wonderful wife to her late husband, Joey Adams, the comedian. She's a comedian, he was a comedian. And of course, Joey Adams was a huge star in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And I mean, he was right up there with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and the whole 9 yards. And he was a lot older than Cindy, and she was the most wonderful, devoted wife to him. And she is a lovely, lovely person. She has an absolutely beautiful apartment on, I think it's Park. I'm trying to remember. I think it's Park. Beautifully furnished too. Anyway, the point is, she is extremely well connected. And what we're getting here is confirmation from a totally independent source that there are problems within the Sussex household. And yes, I've heard the same things. The problem with Harry and Meghan is their life is so tumultuous. Everything is such turmoil and drama that is there going to be an absolute denouement or not? I mean, drama queens can go their whole lives creating drama, and it never builds to a significant climax. It never builds into any decisive denouement that the onlooker would think is the natural outcome, because drama queens like drama. And no matter how unhappy Harry is in California, he's in California because his children are in California. And he and Meghan are a public double act. Do you remember how Harry complained about how the royal family had turned his life into a real version of the Truman Show? Well, they didn't. He and Meghan have turned their lives into a 24/7 version of the Truman Show. My understanding is that they were not required at the Super Bowl. That's my understanding. Let me put it that way. Dee says, we Americans are furious that Has gave out the Walter Payton Award. Looks as if they were disinvited to the Super Bowl. We take the Super Bowl seriously and complaints have been pouring in. My understanding as well. Harry's attendance when he was giving out the Walter Payton Award was superficially very successful. But evidently, it wasn't quite as successful behind the scenes, I am hearing, as we have been led to believe it was. There has been consternation that a proper American who has proven to be a proper humanitarian and who either had a proper link to proper humanitarianism and a proper charity or a proper non-profit that properly spreads its wealth, as opposed to Archewell giving out grants that are basically politically motivated and bouncing from account to account. The supposed $8 or $9 million that is supposedly available to Archewell, but seems to only stick in the account during filing tax return times. And evidently there's a lot of dissatisfaction behind the scenes that Harry was invited at all, although invite might be the wrong word, that the decision was taken to have him present the award. And there's real disquiet, I am told, that one of the other sportsmen in the United States of America, and even sportswomen, not that anybody was seriously suggesting a sportswoman present it, but there are sportsmen who have far greater accomplishments in terms of charity work and humanitarianism and community, because this was also about community. But Harry was invited because he is married to Meghan, and very powerful PR forces are trying to recalibrate their image so that their professional representatives will be able to make some money off them. Now remember, the entertainment industry in the United States is uniquely powerful. It is the only other entertainment industry that has ever been as powerful was the German film industry during the 30s and into the 40s during the war, when it was state controlled and Joseph Goebbels handled the publicity, and otherwise no other state on earth, and that includes Russia, I should say not Russia, the Soviet Union, because they were two entirely different states. That includes the Soviet Union during communism, because its entertainment industry did not have a stranglehold on public perception the way the Nazis did in Germany for a good 11, I don't think more than 11, because it took a while to establish, well, let's be generous, 12 years, from 1933 to 1945. But the American entertainment industry has had a stranglehold on the views of not only the American people, but they have exported values that some of them have been wonderful, but them have been dubious. But the point I'm trying to make isn't to focus on the entertainment industry and the messages that it has been delivering for over 100 years now. Because, of course, the talkies started nearly 100 years ago. And by the 1930s, which is a bit less than 100 years, but nearly 100 years, films were selling the visions of society and ideas to the masses. And Hollywood has had a tremendously important part to play in the values of all of America and indeed the Western world. Some of it has been very positive. Not all of it has been positive. Some of it has been negative, but a lot of it has been positive. Well, Ari Emanuel is one of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry in the United States of America. That should tell you something. And that should tell you that he has a long and a far reach. And therefore, people fall into line. Now, Paramount is nowhere near as powerful, but Paramount is also powerful. And there's Netflix. And don't think they're, just because they're competitors, that there is not interlocking self-interest, because there is. So I just make those points for what they're worth. Of course, the complaints are flooding in, and the organizers will console themselves nevertheless with the fact that it is publicly perceived as an accomplishment to have got an English prince or a British prince, whichever way you want to look at it, to give awards. He's now America's prince. And that's how he's been sold, and that's the positioning that he and Meghan are the American representatives of royalty. They are America's royalty. But behind the scenes, let's wait and see what happens. This year is going to prove to be very interesting where Meghan and Harry are concerned. It's already proven to be extremely interesting. And as usual with them, it's push and pull. It's failure, apparent success, failure, apparent success, which is less successful than it's presented as being, and another failure. So let's just wait and see. Nancy Lopez says, "Good morning, Lady C, to you and your girls. Love hearing them nap and relax while you entertain us with the real truth. If possible, can you please expand on Neil Sean's podcast in which he alleges a Times reporter has let slip the long suspected fact that Lilibet has never ever visited the UK? Didn't Harry just settle with the Times Mirror Group? What a coincidence that a Times reporter has revealed this truth in quotation marks, just as the ink dries on Harry's settlement. Just goes to show a win is not always a win. Harry has undoubtedly signed an NDA and will not be able to respond as the real truths about the children are revealed. It is about time." Well, Nancy Lopez, thank you very much for that. May I make one or two points? The Times is News Corp, which was News Group. It's now News Corp. It's Rupert Murdoch's organization. The Mirror is the Mirror Group, as it used to be. It's now owned by Reach PLC. The Times stroke News Group is right-wing centrist. The Mirror is left-wing. It's not even left-wing centrist. It's straightforwardly left-wing. I have not seen Mr. Sean's podcast. I don't need to look at it because I can tell you that I know from the office of the King himself, when he was Prince of Wales, that he received Lilibet in this country. I'm not going to tell you more than that, but I'm going to tell you that I was in touch with the then Prince Charles's office about this, and they confirmed to me that he had seen Lilibet here in this country. So either they were lying to me, and I don't want to go into the ins and outs because it's indecorous, number one, and number two, it is not the way things are done. One needs to have a degree of tact and discretion when dealing with certain matters. But I can tell you that I received a categoric assurance from the then Prince Charles's office that he had seen Lilibet Diana in this country. At the time, it was alleged that she was here and he was supposed to have received her for the length of time that he did. Were they lying to me? Time will tell. But this is what they definitely told me. So, shall we leave it at that? Because the fact that the king saw Lilibet Diana in this country may clear up one or two questions, but it doesn't clear up all the questions. There are questions that have arisen, that people have asked, that there is still a need to hear clear answers about. Let me leave it at that for the moment. I don't think this is the time or the place to say any more. If you exercise a little patience, you won't have to wait that long. Just a little longer. Less than a handful of months. Let's put it that way. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in, so I will know what you'd like us to speak about. And please, it can be on anything. It doesn't have to be on Harry and Meghan alone. In fact, it would be nice if it could be on other things. Don't you think? And on that note, I'll say Godspeed. See you on Thursday. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you like to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Bye-bye.